Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. This podcast is brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting company on project, program, and portfolio management. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Project Management Institute and some of the magazines that they release in their journal. And I'll also be talking about their podcast, Projectified. So the first one we're going to talk about is PM Network. The second one will be PMI Today. The third one is Project Management Journal, and then, as I said, Projectified podcast. So let's start with some of the good facts that they have in PM Network. And I'm going to be kind of going through these, so you might hear some downtime on between what I talk about. But the first thing they're talking about is logistics, which I found the statistics they have here are kind of interesting. So in PM Network, it says, projects to automate supply chain and delivery logistics are gaining speed, and the payoff could be significant in the European Union. Trucking logistics costs are estimated to fall 47% by 2030. Can you imagine 47%? And with the delivery lead times dropping 40%. So lead times are going to be astronomically dropped. Not quite 50%, but getting there. So let's go to the next thing here. So the next thing we have here is the transformation tsunami, as they call it. Companies everywhere are pursuing digital transformation projects with zeal, according to the 2018 PwC Digital Trust Insights Survey. But how those initiatives are implemented is far from uniform. So those that are out of sync, 23% of the business leaders say they plan to invest in aligning business objectives with information security strategy over the next year. I find that interesting that it's only 23%. You would think that it would be in the 90 percentile somewhere, because business leaders need to align anything that they do with business objectives. And I find it only 23% are doing the security strategy with the business objectives. So another one that they call risky business, 91% of enterprise-wide digital transformation projects include security and or privacy personnel as stakeholders. Yet only 53% of business leaders say that proactive risk management is baked into the project plan fully from the start. That's amazing to me. You would think as long as this has been going on, that business leaders would understand that risk management needs to be a part of every project they do, no matter how small or how big. Some sectors are better than others at prioritizing management of cyber and privacy risk on digital transformation projects. 66% are in financial services, 65% healthcare, 58% technology, media, and telecom, 55% manufacturing and industrial products, 53% energy, which is utilities and mining, and 49% consumer markets. 83% say that the board has been provided a privacy risk management strategy. 80% say that the board has been provided a cyber risk management strategy, and only 27% say they are very comfortable the board is getting adequate reporting of metrics on cyber and privacy risk management. That's amazing to me that the board of directors, they only say that 27% are getting the information that they need. We need to change that, folks. We need to have the board of directors understanding what is going on within their organization. So let's switch over to something called remote control. When it comes to both engagement and tenure, co-located project teams could have a leg up on their peers, according to the 2018 Global Work Connectivity Study. So they're saying that those that are virtual probably don't have the same type of security as those that are in the traditional brick and mortar. So what are the statistics? 1 in 3 employees work remotely, always or very often. That's an increase of 115% over the past decade. 2 in 3 remote workers aren't engaged. 43% report more FaceTime with their teams would help them build better relationships. And I've always said that you have to have, even if you're remote, you have to have day-to-day contact with somebody in the team, and that the project leaders need to be reaching out and touching, going back to the AT&T commercial of days past. You have to reach out and touch your project team leads, and as many of those on the project. If it's a small project, that is easier, but if it's a large project, you actually have to bake that into your schedule so that you have time to do it. 5% of remote workers plan to stay at their organization for their entire careers, whereas 28% of non-remote employees intend to stay put for their long term. So we're starting to see that people are having more trust in their organizations and are willing to stay. So let's go to the next thing. It says by 2018, the portion of projects affected by schedule overrun had dropped to under 20%. That's a good thing to hear. Let's go back and see what else we have here. So the next thing that we have in the the PM network are some of the things that are going on with Project Management Institute. So what are some of the events? So 25 to 28 February, which is just around the corner, there's Seminars World in Scottsdale, Arizona. 19 to 22 March, Seminars World in New Orleans. 8 to 11 April, Seminars World in Seattle. 6 to 9 May, it's in Charlotte. 13 to 15 May is the PMI EMEA Congress 2019. And I'll actually be there a little bit earlier for an ethics review conference. 16 to 17 May is Seminars World in Dublin, because that's where the EMEA Congress is being held, is in Dublin, Ireland. So I'm looking forward to going there. 13 to 16 May is Seminars World in Washington, D.C. What else is going on? Then the PMI Global Conference is 5 to 7 October. It'll be in Philadelphia, and they'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of PMI. So if you have a chance, I would highly recommend that you go to the PMI Global Conference 2019 in Philadelphia, or to the EMEA Congress in Dublin, Ireland, because at both of them, they'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of PMI. The PMO Symposium will be in Denver, Colorado from 3 to 6 November. That's for more advanced project managers. I highly recommend, again, that you go to that. Again, they'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary. Let me read to you a little bit about what they say about the global conferences. Bringing together thousands of project management practitioners from around the globe, PMI Global Conference delivers 3 days of diversified education, covering all practices, distinguished keynotes, and curated breakout sessions to leading solution providers and valuable relationship building. Attendees build their customized schedule suited to the individual needs. And on the PMO Symposium, they say organizational leaders come together at PMO Symposium to exchange best practices and new insights into the strategies and practices that drive success. Featuring distinctive networking events and advanced workshops, this premier interactive event is tailored to leaders and executives with experience directing a portfolio of projects, programs, and initiatives. And again, if you're a little bit more advanced in the area of project management and you've got program and portfolio under your belt, I highly recommend the PMO Symposium. So what else is going on? Let's see. As I mentioned, PMI, it says, is celebrating its 50th anniversary, and it's in addition to professional recognition in the form of project management professional certification and other credentials. We've seen a paradigm shift from waterfall to agile, especially in the world of IT and software development. We'll see more technologies like automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence being used by project managers and helping to drive business decisions. The challenge will be to leverage those technologies while still keeping people at the forefront. The need to collaborate and bring out the best in project teams will always remain critical. And that's what PMI and their 50th anniversary, they're going to be concentrating on. It's going to be all about people, but it's also going to be about disruptions that we're going to see in project management and how those disruptions are used for us to help us in the area of project management, because we're going to be seeing AI to help us with our project needs, so that we as project managers and project team leads and project members can be more value add. We're not doing the mundane day-to-day data analytics. So what's some of the things that we're seeing on? So there's one on risk anticipation. Tracking project progress is one way to identify risks that can wreak havoc on projects. But many organizations need to take a closer look at how they anticipate knowns and unknowns. Here's how often organizations use risk management practices. So 27% say always. That's shameful, people. You need to be doing risk management all the time. And that doesn't mean just putting the risks together at the beginning of the projects. You need to be tracking them all the time throughout your project. 35% say often. 25% say sometimes. Really? 25%? Wow. 11% say rarely, and 3% say never. I wonder how many of those projects fail. Let's see what else we've got going on. There's an article here on change agents in plain sight. They're talking about project leaders need to be aware of digital transformation initiatives. If you have those going on in your organization, I highly recommend that you step up and say, yep, I want to do it. Then they have Agile and Ageism. Analyzing the future, they're saying that there's going to be 3 ways data science will change project management. So one of the first one is new roles. Within 5 years, almost all project management offices will seek to have a data science capability either permanently assigned to them or available when needed. So there'll be data science capability. Can you imagine that? So that means AI might be coming in there as well. So it doesn't mean that you need an actual person, but you need to have access to AI to allow it. The next one is new tools. So this is also part of it, AI. New products will make it easier for project leaders to analyze big data for quantitative elements. This includes the ability to correlate data to identify root causes of problems, the ability to perform a what-if analysis, which portfolio managers do all the time. But right now, they don't use any tools to do that. They kind of do it on their own. Or if they do have some project management softwares, it does allow what-if scenarios. And the ability to help project managers prioritize tasks and milestones so they deliver the most value. Can you imagine having tools that help you do that instead of you having to analyze it on your own? You can actually look at the what-if scenarios, and it helps you understand how you need to adjust your schedule to get the best out of your project. And the third thing is new measures of progress. Portfolio managers might be asked to assess their organization's level of maturity in using data. For this emerging area of assessment, the following categories can be used. New, an organization that has barely identified the need of data science strategy. Investigation, an organization that has recognized it needs to develop a data science strategy. Early adoption, an organization that has made great progress. Extensive adoption, an organization that likely has a chief knowledge officer and an enterprise-wide strategy. Leader, an organization born into a digitized world. Think of Uber and Airbnb, which rely on data to link consumers with an inventory of transport or accommodations. So are you an early adopter or a leader? Think about that. Those are things that you need to understand, that's where project management is going. So let's see where else we have. I have another one on AI. And they say creation means nothing unless you are creating for your organization. 61% of adults 25 to 64 anticipate using voice-driven devices more in the future than they have in the past. I have said that extensively, that we project managers will be using voice-driven things such as Alexa, Siri, Cortana, Google. Can you imagine being, and I've said this in the past in some of my podcasts, you can go out and say, hey, Google, hey, Siri, hey, Cortana, I need to understand what's going on with the risks in my organization, in my project. Tell me what the top 3 risks are. Tell me what risks I'm missing. Tell me what risks I need to redo. Can you do some what if scenarios? Can you imagine if you can do that? So actually people are saying that there's going to be voice-driven technology on projects. And that's what I think we should be doing. Let's see what else we've got going on here. They talk about different, a new voice in the kitchen. So they talk about voices in the kitchen. They talk about how Google Assistants are helping in different areas. They talk about companies that are going along. They're talking about changing the environment, how project managers are changing the environment. Let's see what else we got. They talk about national treasures in different companies, bridging ambition and ability, and that's about Agile Teams. There's a lot on Agile, as you'll see. So you need to understand that. It says 41% of organizations cite a lack of skills or experience with Agile approaches as a major barrier. Again, I'm going to guess that it's not as high as they think it is. If they would go in and really look at what their employees have and the skills that they have, they might find that people that are not being utilized have the skills that they need, but these people don't understand how to make it to the next step. So I urge HR and leaders in their organizations to really look at their employees. And if the employees have some of the skills, but not the other skills, give them the learning that they need to make it to that next step. I think this 41% is too high because I know that there's people in the organization that have the skills, but they're not being utilized effectively. That happened with me, and I couldn't break the barrier in some of my organizations to get to the next step. I was a portfolio manager, and they were told me I was doing portfolio, and I wasn't. And I tried to tell them, and I tried to change it, but the culture just wouldn't allow me to do it. Let's see. Some of the things that they recommend that you do to get ahead is have executive support. That's one thing I didn't have. I didn't have executive support. Build a network. Absolutely. Building a network is excellent. Requires leadership, so you have to be a leader in your own right. So those three things can help you further your teams in the Agile process. You need to have all of those items. Let's see what else we can do. Some other statistics it has in here about Agile obstacles. And again, I'm not an Agile person. I know enough to get me in trouble. I have been a business owner on an Agile project, but the top challenges organizations cite for adopting and scaling Agile. 53% say it's organizational culture at odds with Agile values, and I absolutely agree with that. I saw that in several companies that I've worked at. 46% general organization resistance to change. People don't like change because they think their jobs are going away. So you need to make people comfortable with change. 42% inadequate management support and sponsorship. 41% says lack of skills or experience with Agile methods. Leaders give them training. Agile is not that hard to learn, but the people have to be trained. 35% say insufficient training and education. That goes along with the 41% of lack of skills or experience. 34% say inconsistent processes and practices across teams. 31% lack of availability of business, customer, or product owner. I was a business owner, and many people don't want to put the time in to be a business owner. It takes a lot of work. 30% say pervasiveness of traditional development methods. 24% say fragmented tooling and project-related data or measurement. And 21% say minimal collaboration and knowledge. So what else do we have in this? There's another article on your own, When the Boss Won't Help. Here's how to climb the project management career ladder, which is sometimes difficult. And as I said, I was actually in that situation, and I never broke through that barrier. But it says 60% of employees say they've left or would leave a job over a bad boss. I left 2 jobs because of a bad boss. So sometimes you need to make that decision if your boss is not going to help you, that you need to go and do that. The boss is buried. So that's one of the signals that you've got a problem. The supervisor is too busy to eye the horizon and map out skills development plan or top career goals. So what can you do? Stretch the role and the responsibilities in order to grow on the job. What's another one? Some of the things that they talk about here that can help you out. When moving up means moving on. Sometimes career advancement requires finding a new organization. The project talent is pigeonholed. So if project management means that you're pigeonholed, then maybe you need to go someplace else. Project managers aren't seen as people. They're seen as taskmasters or just expediters. Then maybe it's time to move on. Dialogue is discouraged. If you're not encouraged to bring up risks and issues that you have on your project, then maybe it is time to go. What else do we have here? The boss is absent. The organization has no clear reporting structure for project professionals. So solution, rely on project peers and company mentors. Let's see, premium on digital is another one that we have. They talk about the 2018 Project of the Year. Which is a good thing to read. It gives you some maybe ideas about your project and what you can do. They talk about sustainable change, and that's about it for the PM network. Let's go into PM today, and I want to go into some of the statistics they have. So PMI fact file. Do you know that as of the edition of this one, we have 556,839 total members at PMI. In 208 countries and territories, PMI has 300 chartered and 7 potential chapters. Certification for the CAPM, CAPM, there's 37,258. PMP is 884,518. When do you think it's going to reach 1 million? I think it's going to reach 1 million probably late this year, early next year. PFMP, 640. That's the highest certification, in my opinion, that you can get from PMI. PGMP is 2,550. The RMP is 5,051. The schedule professional is 1,910. The PBA, that's business analysis, 3,073. And the Agile is 24,998. So that one is growing, and I think we'll see it grow rapidly as Agile becomes the norm versus waterfall. So how many copies of the PMBOK do you think are out in circulation? This one says 6,216, 687. I wonder how many of us have downloaded it more than once and we're being counted and having downloaded it 3 or 4 times. I know I have it on 5 different machines and have downloaded it probably that many times. So that's interesting to see those facts of PMI. So what else do we have going on? So they have something from the chairman of the board, and he talks about the new leadership and the new focus and best fit versus best practice and what to expect in 2019 and what do we expect for the 50th anniversary. Then they talk about the PMO Symposium. It was for 2018. The idea there and what they were talking about was leading the charge on disruption, because that's what's happening nowadays. So they have several a large article on that. Hold on just a second. They have another one called How Does Awakening Compassion Make a Difference in Project Management? So you have to be compassionate on a project. I know when we would have celebrations and when we would have a death or somebody got hurt, there was compassion. We gave people day off. We gave people time to go to funerals if they had it. You've got to be compassionate on projects. It is about getting the work done, but you also have to be able to keep people up and going. The PMI also has an educational foundation, and they will award $1.4 million in different grants and that they have. They have student grants. They have junior achievement. They have what they call 100K in 10. Those are for teachers. PM capable nonprofit grants. It just goes on the type of grants that they have. World Relief Grant. Let's see. So now is the time to recognize superior performance. So they're calling for nominations for the 2019 Professional Awards. Let me just read you some of the awards. There's the PMI Young Professional Award. Now, these are not through the Educational Foundation. These are actually through PMI. The Eric Jarrett Project Management Excellence Award. Let's see if there's any more awards listed here. Research and Academic Awards. How to nominate, so it tells you how to nominate, and I will tell you that these nominations take a long time. I've actually nominated somebody, and you have to provide a lot of material, so make sure that you put some time to the side. They also have events in here, but they talk about events in different countries, unlike what PM Network talked about. So if you want to see what's going on in your local area, look at that. And then I was actually very glad to see a dear friend of mine, Ginger Levin, passed away, and they actually have a page dedicated to her. So she brought so much to the project management environment, and she did so much for project management. I was glad to see that they celebrated her life. Then they talk about conference highlights and volunteering for conferences. Academic workshops, what you can do in that area, tool workshops, what's going on in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So these talk about chapter links. And then they talked about Projectified, which I'll be doing in just a second. Projectified actually has 2 new things. So let's see what's going on in the Project Management Journal. This, the journal comes out quarterly, so this quarter you have qualitative research submission to Project Management Journal, project management practices in private organization, can serious games improve project management decision making under complexity, contemporary review of anti-corruption measures in construction projects. Interesting that we still have corruption going on in construction projects. Organizational justice, project performance, and the mediating effects of key success factors. Planning, tracking, and reducing a complex project's value at risk. Improving project budget estimation accuracy and precision by analyzing reserves for both identified and unidentified risks. And finally, conflict management, team coordination, and performance with multicultural, temporary, and projects. I do want to tell you that if you are a practitioner looking at the journal, please feel free to read the whole thing, but I would highly recommend, if you don't want to go through all the methodology and all of the statistics that they might have in, that you look at what the findings and recommendations. Through that, you'll be able to figure out what you can do on your projects based on what they're talking about. So that's usually towards the end of the article, so I would highly recommend that you do that. They also might recommend that what needs to be done in future research. So that can give you an idea of things that you might be looking for to help you in that and to help you with your projects. Okay, so let's switch over to the last thing, which is Projectified. And there were 2 new ones that came out in January. And the first one was on 16 January. It's called Transformation, Navigating Mergers and Acquisitions. I highly recommend that you listen to that, especially if you are in an industry that has a lot of mergers and acquisitions, because it helps out. And if you are ever a project manager, I've had the delight to do a merger/acquisition when I was at Deloitte. And it's amazing what you learn and the insights that you get on those type of projects. Talk about change management and organizational change. And leaders having rose-colored glasses. I found that in my organization when we were doing the change management. They didn't think that we needed to do any change management, that everything was hunky-dory. Well, needless to say, 4 years later, the whole thing fell apart. And I think it was because change management wasn't done. The next one is called Job Skills, Cultivating Creativity. I can't tell you how much you need to be creative on your project. I don't care what your project is. You need to have creativity to bring it in on budget, on schedule, and maybe even bringing it under budget and under schedule if you allow your team to be creative. So don't be a taskmaster. Let your project team Be creative in what they're doing. It doesn't mean that you allow them to just spin their wheels and allow creativity to take over and not get anything to do. You still have to have that forward momentum. So you as the project manager have to do that. So look at this. Look at the job skills of cultivating creativity. I think you'll find it interesting. So what they talk about is creativity is the spark behind every bright idea. And I can't push that as much as I need to. Creativity is absolutely a part of being a project manager, but it needs to be, they go on to say, but it needs the right environment to flourish. Learn how leaders can give their teams both the structure and inspiration they need to think outside the box. Plus, Nickelodeon's Senior Director of Creative Project Management shares 3 creativity killers to avoid. I can't emphasize this enough. You need to learn to be creative, but still, as they said, you have to provide the structure so you have the forward momentum on your projects. I'm Wanda Curley, and this podcast has been brought to you by PM Powered. I bring you project, program, and portfolio needs. I'm your authority on those, so if you have any questions, please contact me at wanda@pmpowered.com. If you have done this podcast and you would like to any of the podcasts that I talked about or anything that I talked about in PM Network or PMI Today, please contact me. I'd love to have you on my podcast. Please go to PM Current and follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I already said Twitter. Sorry about that. So follow me on all those areas. I'd love to, again, have you on my podcast, and let's have a discussion on any of these projects. If you disagree with me, please contact me. I'd love to have a debate with you. Those are always healthy and bring out different ideas. Who knows, you might bring me to your side, or maybe I'll bring you to my side. But debates are good. So please, if you have anything that you disagree with me, contact me at wanda@pmpowered.com. Again, have a blessed week, and I'll see you next Monday.